Hello everyone. In this video, we are looking at the novel River of Smoke, which is second volume in Ibis trilogy, written by author Amitav Ghosh. It was published in 2011, which traces the fate of the other characters from the Ibis and describes the opium trade in China set in 1838. This novel was listed as one of the best historical novels of the year by National Public Radio. So, River of Smoke is a vibrant and with multiple plots, describing the 19th century Asian subcontinent with creative enthusiasm and deep historical insights. In short, it is a voyage through complex history. The novel contains 550 pages, containing three parts, first being the island, second, Canton, and third, Commissioner Lin, with 18 chapters and more than 20 major characters. As the novel opens, a cyclone rages in the Bay of Bengal, where three ships are converging on Canton. One ship is Anhita, which carries the large collection of opium ever to come to the Canton from India. It is owned by Behram Modi, a Parsi opium trader from Bombay. Another ship, Redruth, carries Frederick Fisher Penrose, who is a horticulturist and wants to study China's medical plants. And the third ship is Ibis, which had its appearance in Sea of Poppies. It carries convicts and endangered laborers. Among those fighting for their lives on the Ibis are Diti, who is a widowed poppy grower, and her lover, Kalua. Diti is a returning character from the first book of the trilogy, that is, Sea of Poppies. She is fleeing from her homeland because she is pregnant with Kalua's child, so they secure a lifeboat and escapes from the Ibis with several others including convicts. Afat, the son of Canton opium trader, then Neil, a Raja who has been convicted of embezzlement. Others are Jodu and Srirang Ali. These are servants, and Babu Nob Kisan, the overseer. They are travelling from India to Mauritius. Afat and Neil escapes from Ibis and meet up with Afat's father, that is Behram Modi, who ships opium to China from his native land of India. Behram joined the opium trade many years before, thanks to his father-in-law, Rustamji Mistri. Although Rustamji Mistri is a powerful shipbuilder back in India, as his son-in-law Behram is a lowly member of the family. However, Behram manages to convince his father-in-law to fund several journeys to China to take part in the opium trade. The venture is profitable and also brings success to both Behram and his in-laws. Yet, things are complicated when he has a son, Afat, with his mistress, Kai Mai, a Cantonese woman, and this fact is unknown to his family back in Bombay. But when his father-in-law suddenly dies, the rest of the family attempts to force him out of the business. Yet, Behram decides to ship one last huge consignment of opium on Anhita, hoping to earn enough to buy out his in-laws' business. Then, the plot is set in Fankai Town, a small strip of land used by foreigners to trade with local Chinese traders. During this time, China finds itself in the midst of a crisis, as opium addiction is sweeping its population and bringing fortune only to the European traders who deal in the substance. This throws light on the monopoly of the East India Company on opium trade with China. So, in an attempt to control the crisis, the government has begun cracking down on imports of the drugs into the country. Therefore, the crisis became a political conflict between the British and the Chinese. On the one hand, the British merchants believe in unrestricted free trade, stating that nobody, not even the Grand Manchu himself, can claim jurisdiction over a subject of the Queen of England. And on the other hand, the Chinese government is tired of bearing the consequences of opium addiction on the Chinese population. This conflict leaves opium traders like Behram restless, because now they have no choice but to wait and see if they will be allowed to sell their cargo. However, Behram is also up against large established traders from Denmark, Spain, Sweden, France, Britain, and America, and is thus fighting a challenging battle. So he agrees to allow his son to join him in the opium trade. Neil, that is Behram's son, hide his identity and take up work as Behram's munshi, means a type of secretary. Here we can sense the novel describes the sights, sounds, smells and customs of 19th century China. Then, at one point, Behram is invited to join the Canton Chamber of Commerce. This chamber is a self-interested, amoral group of traders who have made vast profits but are too greedy to compromise. And Behram is invited, as it was the custom of the time for there to be one Parsi on the committee. Then, the all-male committee members greet each other with embrace. Another subplot involving the all-male trading enclave retells their romantic relationships with each other, and one pair, Matson and Mr. Wetmore. They are both separated because Matson must travel to England to be married. Another subplot involves Paulette Lambert, also known as Peggy, the orphan daughter of a French botanist. Disguised as a deckhand, she accompanies Mr. Fisher on his expedition in search of a rare plant, the golden camellia, in the botanical garden at Pamplemousse. During the expedition, Paulette receives letter from her friend Robin Chinnery, the illegitimate homosexual son of artist George Chinnery. Robin's letters narrate certain section of book that reveals more of Canton life outside of Behram's circle. The novel also covers much of the life of Behram. He lives a dual existence. He is the dutiful, devoted husband when he is in India, but when he is in China, he becomes someone else. Even he does not hesitate to use a Western name. He has children in both India and China, but he is not particularly interested in any of them until Afad joins the family business. The story details how his relationship with his wife, that is Shirin Bai, and the Chinese lover change over the years. It is seen that he abandons both for a long period of time, more or less re-entering each relationship only when it fits him. At one point, Behram and his friend Zadig, an Armenian watchmaker, have a discussion over whether love is a factor in both of their discussion to acquire a second foreign wife. The last part begins when a new High Commissioner, the incorruptible Lin Zekiu, is appointed to the Canton Chamber of Commerce to put an end to the opium trading. The committee is unmasked as a group of self-serving hypocrites. An agreement is made wherein the merchants must surrender the opium to the British government for compensation, but Behram is the sole person to disagree. The novel ends with Behram heartbroken, feeling as though he has sold his soul and gotten nothing in return. Amitav Ghosh leaves the novel open-ended, a technique that makes reader free to interpret and guess what may happen next. Concluding, we may say, the novel's strength lies in how thoroughly Amitav fills out his research with his novelistic fantasy, seduced by each new situation that presents itself and each new character, so that at their best the scenes read with sensual freshness, as if they are happening now. The judgments of history are generously deferred, and the story of the opium trader is an ugly one, but the spirit of the novel is enthusiastic tragicomedy, not moralizing the post hoc gloom. So, that's it for this video. See you next time. And if you like my video, then please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.